Okay, so we're continuing with the monastic approach. So if you look at the monks and nuns vows, they're mostly about not dealing with things that cause too much desire or aversion. That's why monks and nuns, they don't have intimate partners, they don't deal with wealth, right? They let go of these things that tend to cause us a lot of problems, okay? The technique is put down the hot pan that is burning you, right? So the thing is, sometimes this means admitting that something is a problem for you that you don't want to be a problem, right? Relationship is a great example. Your job could be a problem for you. You could be in a toxic environment, or there's just, you can't, but you don't want to face that because you don't want to have to get another job. A good example is drinking. I don't want to face the fact that my drinking might be a problem because that might mean that I have to quit, right? So, again, the technique sounds simple. It's not always so simple to do it in life. And we just hope that we have made it seem important enough to you that you would be motivated to get support if you need support. If maybe there's something is a real obstacle, is a real problem for you. We hope you feel like it's your life and your happiness is important enough, that you would actually try to tackle that problem, even if it seems scary, right? So talking about, finding your triggers and letting things go, some things are pretty easy to do that with. Like you find out that you realize that you get angry when you watch cable news. That's not such a big deal to be like, you know what, I'm not gonna watch cable news anymore, right? What about relationships with people? That's a little bit more complicated. And James is going to talk about this a little bit, but I'm going to get it going, okay? So first of all, it really might be appropriate to step away from a person, okay? The Buddha talks about this all the time. He says, bad friends will bring you down. Get away from bad friends. It's like you're not helping your negative friend who complains all the time by listening to that and supporting that. You're not helping anyone, Same thing with a boss. James had a really toxic boss who was this big, important person, and was it after he threw a computer out of a skyscraper window?
Yeah.
That James was just like, no, I'm not gonna be around this. And then he went and he started his own business so that he wouldn't have to be beholden to immoral people anymore. And then he set the tone for his business, And I did a similar thing where I decided that I wanted to work at a social justice nonprofit so that I wanted to be around people who were focused on helping other people. And that was such an amazing experience. It was totally inspiring and uplifting. And so it's like, we have to make choices that reflect our values. We can't be victims. So that was a bit about like stepping away from a relationship. But now what about the relationships that we want to preserve? Family members, lifetime friends, marriage partners. So here we also practice stepping away. but we practice stepping away when things heat up, okay? Or just before they heat up, preferably. So again, the goal is always to not return affliction with affliction. So whatever you can do to take the pain in the moment and not return with affliction. It might mean your husband snaps at you, you go to the bathroom, into the bathroom, not go to the bathroom. You go into the bathroom, you breathe 10 times slowly, you calm your nervous system, you know? Maybe you're still disturbed and you go out for a walk, you know? The idea is whatever you can do in the moment to not return with the same. But here's the thing. So avoidance. Okay, so in a we're talking about relationships where it's like ongoing relationship with these intense dynamics and all this psychology going on, right? So when it comes to them, avoidance is not necessarily a complete perfect path, because you can't just never talk about sensitive stuff or, you know? And now this is not, we always teach from scriptures. What I'm saying right now is my personal advice. This isn't from scripture. I'm just telling you my personal, what I have noticed. Trying to be such a good person and not responding in the moment can sometimes backfire if we then don't address whatever keeps triggering us. Like if there's a certain pattern in a relationship that we feel is unfair, right? And we keep kind of getting triggered by it. If we're only just swallowing and never, just swallowing the anger, never saying anything, it can come out in an indirect way, right? That we're not aware of, but it starts to happen, like passive-aggressive behavior, addiction, secretive behavior, right? These weird things can develop. What we need to do is we need to take a direct action to address the thing that's triggering us and the relationship, but we need to do it without any mental affliction. So when the thing triggers us, we do the stepping back and removing ourselves, okay? We don't respond with mental affliction. But then we go away by ourselves, and then we figure out what is really the problem. And when you and the other person, when you're both in receptive, responsive, calm, happy modes, you go and you talk to them and you plan out what you're going to say. And you do it in a way that's totally like you're listening to them and, like just no reactivity. Just let's talk and let's both be heard. And so that's my little caveat about, because I don't want people to, there can be a little trap in just never responding, okay? Not when it comes to just people that you interact with who you don't, it's really in the really close relationships where there can sometimes be a little backfire there, okay? Does that make sense to people? Okay.
So keep this in mind, this is in the context of 3 different Buddhist approaches. And Master Shantideva is going to train you in all of them. You're going to be using all of them. So the first approach is really like, okay, I got to back away from the things that are triggering me. Okay? Now, when you're filled with love and wisdom, then he's going to want you to really come back and help to increase goodness. And then he's going to say, okay, now that you're increasing goodness, what's the fastest way to increase goodness? And that's when the wisdom really hits. So please don't think that we're ever going to abandon anyone to suffering. we just have to recognize there are moments and times where we're part of the problem. And we don't want to add to the poison in the world. Does that make sense? Okay. So today's heavy on the back away approach. But I really want to now, we're going to take you through Master Shantideva's really like super sexy secret method. What was he doing when everyone thought that he was just Mr. Three Thoughts? Okay? So this is actually very advanced practice, even though it seems like it's grouped in the first one. This is sophisticated, okay? So he has this trick because there are times when you can't just put the hot object down. There are times when you can't just back away. I mean, there are times that you have to be around people and mentally afflicted situations and really tough things that are pressing your button. So he introduces this technique, which on the surface he calls being a bump on the log. Okay? And what he's going to say is, when you know your mind's getting afflicted, just freeze like a bump on the log. Don't respond, don't make it worse. But he's got this really cool trick. He's like, move your mind to something virtuous. So you can be in chaos. You can be in a difficult situation. But he's going to move your mind someplace else. Okay? And this thing is that he has a supercharged technique, which he calls recollection and mindfulness. Okay? We talk a lot about mindfulness. Mindfulness is being fully aware here in the present moment, right? And that's a good thing. People are very excited about mindfulness right now. We need more mindfulness in the world. Definitely a good thing. But monastic mindfulness is going to go deeper. Mindfulness needs to be teamed with a virtuous action. In this case, recollection. Because just being mindful and mindful that you're mentally afflicted, that's a kind of torture. I am fully present in this mental affliction, okay? All right, so that is not good enough, okay? And in fact, you could be intensifying. So you have to team mindfulness with a virtuous action, which is recollection. And in this case, mindfulness is like a watchful sentry. It's like, wait, danger is approaching. The enemy, mental affliction, has been sighted. Okay? Now I need to use recollection to move my mind to a virtuous object so it can't even invade my mind. I'm putting up this, like, I don't know, what would we call this invisible barrier of goodness? You just like, boom, you get your invisible barrier of goodness going, and the mental affliction can't even get in.
Positive force field.
Positive force field, I like it. We'll use that. Master Shantideva is big on not giving the mental afflictions an inch in your mind. So what exactly was he doing when everyone was like, this guy's just got 3 thoughts? He was watching his mind to see when the moment the mental afflictions came. And then he was, as an antidote, recalling the great qualities of the enlightened mind. He was thinking on Buddhas and how Buddhas experience the world. And this is as positive a force field as you can imagine. And Kristen's going to talk about it in more detail. But this is the extraordinary version of recollection. So this is the secret sauce that you're not going to get anyplace else. Okay. And it's a superpowered technique that keeps the mental afflictions from invading your mind. And it also keeps the demons that are trying to camp in your mind, it boots them out.
So we just want to mention for some people are new to Buddhist teaching, so we just want to make it clear. It's not like there's one Buddha. There was the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, but there were people who got enlightened before him, people who have gotten enlightened after him. You will get enlightened, right? There's not one Buddha. And that's because everyone lacks a self-nature, like we were talking about earlier. Everyone lacks a self-nature, so we can get enlightened. We can defeat all of our mental afflictions. And so, and no mental afflictions, that's one of the main qualities of a Buddha, right? They have no mental afflictions. They have absolutely no disturbance in their mind. They are perfectly at peace, tranquil, blissed out. And the other quality that they have is that they've achieved all knowledge. They're omniscient. They are not limited beings like we are. They don't have any uncertainty. They don't have any confusion. And, they see everything as like an illusion, like a dream with no real substance or real true nature. And while perceiving things that way, they have compassion and love, like limitless for all beings, right? Remember what James did that Dharmakirti quote, because you believe in a self, you believe in an other. And because of self and other, we get attachment and aversion, and then all of our problems come from that. Buddhas don't have that self and other. So, Buddhas love everyone perfectly, equally. They don't have some people that they like and some people that they don't, like we do, right? And their main activity is teaching, right? They want to cultivate all of us and bring us out of suffering.
So that's kind of a nice overview of the qualities of the Buddha, how they manifest practically. Let's experience Master Shantideva's technique of recollection and mindfulness in meditation. So we'll prepare the room for meditation. This is going to be the meditation we're going to work on.